pockets of hope also, and India is one such. Iran, for instance, with the lifting of the sanctions would be another such. So just as there are pockets of difficulties, there are pockets of opportunities. Overall, I think, yes, the world constantly goes through rebalancing in some portion or the other. But overall, for India as a country, I think we are on the right path, and I see no reason for us to be despondent at all.
When you spoke in your address about, there was last year's quote in the Jandan account. In similar trend you see, though you have not read the RBI annual report, it makes a case for that is the bank should be compensated with the government schemes which they run. What would you like to?
We are already working with it, working on it with the government. I cannot say that I don't think the government intends not to give anything, but we are working on what it should be.
It has spoken that you should be compensated for the cost.
Yeah. No, compensated. See, the basic thing is what RBI is saying, there is an upfront cost for customer acquisition. Okay? So that customer acquisition cost any business house will have to bear. Now the government also wants that this should be a sustainable kind of an initiative, that we should not do it and then allow it to die because it is not commercially viable. So obviously the government will have to think of ways and means to ensure that these accounts, once they come in, that they become commercially viable accounts. So we are working on those things. And I think, there is no point in being very impatient about it. We need to be a little patient. Even before the Jan Dhan program started, our BC channel had turned viable. Okay. Now with sudden acquisition, obviously there is a sudden cost that has come in. Now that will have to get amortized over a period of time as these turn viable. And these will turn viable as the DBT comes in, as more and more of these programs which the poor will be able to afford, as those are launched and we actually see activation in the accounts. And again, as I said, initially the idea was that nobody would be using these accounts. That's not true. In SBI, at least means I think at this point of time we have 44% of the accounts that are active. The number is a little lower for us because first of all we have a very large base, and second of all we have some of the most backward districts because we are the SLBC leaders in all the backward districts of the country, and therefore we have a little more of a handicap than some other banks. But having said that, the fact that from August of last year when we started to August of this year, that we are almost 45% of the accounts are now active, I think that speaks a lot in the sense that yes, there are people out over there who are willing to handle these accounts. What is needed more to make them viable? I would say first of all financial literacy. This is something that is very much required. Even we, when we go to fill out a form, we hesitate to find out what is exactly to be filled in and all. So those people who have never seen these forms, obviously it is difficult for them. So you need financial literacy. The second thing that you need is better access. So as we ensure that all of these business correspondents are empowered with a micro ATM, which is just like a POS, but it allows cash out also, access will also improve. So as you improve financial literacy, as you improve access, as you improve the product suite meant for these kinds of people, as the DBT comes in, all of these things will help to make these accounts viable, and therefore it will pay for itself at some point of time. Yes, maybe it is not paying for itself today, but I think with such a huge initiative that has been taken, we need to be a little more patient. And frankly, inclusion is something that we need for the good of the country. The people who are excluded, they don't need it. It is the people who are included, they need further inclusion in order to ensure that growth is sustainable, that there is law and order in the country, that there is peace in the country. It is required that everybody should be included and everybody should be able to access organized finance. So to that extent, this is something that every country needs, and we need to be a little patient for it to actually come to fruition.
Do you think payment banks will be able to fix the financial inclusion problem in this country, considering by the
See, the payments bank have come at a time when the technology is maturing. So they have come at a right time. Now what is it? What was the reason why the banks were not able to do financial inclusion earlier? I think one of the biggest reasons was technology. We didn't have the right kind of communication network Even today, we have given to the government a list of places where we don't have the right kind of communication bandwidth. Okay, so communication is something that is very, very important. Now, communication and the stability of communication has only come in the last few years. So also, the solutions for what we call kiosk banking or the business correspondence. In the 90s, late 90s, SBI at one point of time were experimenting with 4 types of solutions regarding financial inclusion. So we had things like A Little World, we had Fino, we had 2 others, and we were doing it with all of them, trying to find which is the most robust and scalable proposition. Now those things have all happened. So the payment banks come at a very good time. They are also coming with players who already have a stake in the market, because many of them are in communications. They are telcos. There are your software companies. So these people, they have already been existing players, and they understand this particular area not from the side of banking, but from the side of the technology required. And frankly, if that is the case, there is really no reason why they shouldn't be able to further the cause of financial inclusion. Now, when you say will they be able to fix it, I don't really know what is fixed. But whether they'll be able to further the cause, yes, they will be able to further the cause. But remember one thing, payment banks can't give loans. At the end of the day, financial inclusion does mean that you allow the particular entity to be able to access finance when required. Okay, so for that, the banks and the small banks, they will still have to make a play. So therefore, financial inclusion will have to be done by every player in the field, not only by payment banks.
I have a question on the bankruptcy code. The finance minister said it's something we can look forward to this year. What are your expectations from this code, and in terms of the scenario of bad debts that we're seeing banks struggle with? Do you think?
Okay, there are some important comments coming in from SBI chairman, who's clearly saying that India is on the right path and they see no reason for despondency, as well as no point in being impatient about Jan Dhan program, and also expecting good GDP numbers which are to be announced tomorrow, or rather on August 31st, which is Monday, according to their internal research. So good comments coming in from Arundhati Bhattacharya, but let's bring the focus back to the markets, which are holding out smartly, 1.5% of an upside.